So you probably shouldn't look at your 401k tonight. Don't do it. The Dow tumbled 572 points today on fears of a trade war with China. That is after the president said late last night that he was considering tariffs on $100 billion more in the Chinese exports, which could triple what the United States is already planning. So I want to bring in now CNN senior economics analyst Stephen Moore, who is a senior economic advisor on the Trump campaign, and Rick Wilson, a Republican strategist. So I'm not even going to look, Rick and Stephen, at my 401k. I mean, today was scary. I just sat there in the afternoon watching that number going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So Rick, the president's new National Economic Council director, was asked about President Trump's threat of an additional $100 billion in tariffs on China. This is what he said this morning. Watch this.
When did the president first tell you that he was going to announce these additional potential $100 billion in tariffs?
Last evening. President Trump says enough is enough. Now, we're not running a trade war. If you read this thing, you'll see this is just a proposed idea which will be vetted by USTR and then open for public comment. So nothing's happened. Nothing's been executed. I read about how there's no there yet, but there will be.
Okay, so it's Larry Kudlow. So a couple of things to dissect here, Rick. One, why did the president apparently not consult with his top economic advisor on these new potential tariffs? And two, do you think that this threat from the president was an empty one?
Well, I think the first question answers itself. This is the pattern of behavior the president engages in at all times. He is impulsive. He shoots from the lip. He talks, whatever's in his brain leaps out of it and heads straight to his Twitter fingers. And as for the second part, I think the fact is the damage is already done. We've already started down this path where you've seen the market shed off today many billion dollars of equity because they're terrified now that the Chinese have all the cards in a trade war against us, and they're terrified that we're in a situation where Donald Trump has written a bunch of checks that he can't cash, with no surprise, but politically speaking, they realize that they can bring a lot of pain into this. Look, when it comes to trade, the U.S. and China are frenemies. We have a big problem with them and our intellectual property, but we also have a relationship where they buy our T-bills and they sell us things that we want that improve the quality of lives of American consumers. And no American wants to go out and pay $9 for a toilet brush at Walmart instead of 99 cents. And so there's a benefit to trade. Our trade deficit with China, when you level services into it, is a net plus. And so I think the president is off on one of his little tangents, one of his little tears. Whether the war was meant to start, he started it.
Okay, so Stephen, I want you to weigh in on that. But do you think, Stephen, what do you think? I mean, is this a negotiating tactic without the intention of following, all the way through? Is the president consulting with his team on these moves, or is he just winging it here? What's going on?
Well, this wasn't impulsive. I disagree totally with Rick Wilson. Rick, apparently you weren't listening to what Donald Trump was saying during the campaign. I mean, this was one of his major economic points, was that we were going to get very, very tough with China. He mentioned China in every speech, that China is stealing. They are cheating on the trade deals. They are consorting with our enemies in North Korea. In every way, China, in my opinion, I think Donald Trump shares this opinion, has become an enemy of the United States. They're not an ally, and a lot of Americans are wondering, Rick and Don, what took us so long? Why has it taken us 15 or 20 years to react in this way when China has been stealing about $300 billion of intellectual property every year? I talk to CEOs every day, Don, who say it's almost impossible for American companies to penetrate the Chinese market, so it's not a level playing field. And look, Rick is just completely wrong. The country that can't, look, if we can't trade with China, that will hurt American consumers. It might mean that rather than paying 99 cents for a tube of toothpaste, it might cost $1.29. A cell phone might cost an extra $15. But China, if they don't have access to the American $10 trillion market, their economy plunges into a recession. So I think Trump understands that we have the upper hand here. What I want, and I think Trump wants, is a negotiated settlement where China starts to behave itself and stops cheating and stealing.
So, Rick, what if he's doing something that needs to be done, or maybe he, I don't know, maybe he is bluffing his way, and maybe China will buy it. I don't know, but it could end up being a good thing.
Look, Look, the fact that we have to address the trade imbalances with China, we have to address intellectual property stuff with China, absolutely no one disagrees with that. And Stephen's correct. That's an absolute issue. But what you don't do is enter a negotiation with a country that buys our T-bills and can tank our market in a hot minute if they choose to, and that we have a broad set of relationships with that benefit the U.S. in many, many ways and benefit China in many ways. Like I said, we're frenemies in this thing. We're bound together, and you don't go into that negotiation impulsively. You don't go into that negotiation with the typical Donald Trump, like a monkey in a zoo cage throwing poo out the bars and hoping something makes people run the right direction. This is not a guy who does things in a, all Trump supporters often ascribe to this president this five-dimensional quantum chess that he's playing. It's not. He doesn't have the intellectual wherewithal to do that. And the fact of the matter is, very few economists think, wow, a trade war with China would be have a really good set of outcomes. Because what's likely to happen is we're going to see what happened today, iterate over and over again. We're going to see the market go into the
I'm
crapper.
running out of time, Rick.
We're going to see a lot of difficulty.
Yeah. But
if the Chinese decide one time to sit at a T-bill auction, guess what happens? Today will look like a love tap.
All right, Stephen, I got 10 seconds.
That's ridiculous. I mean, they are the ones who own all our T-bills. They would be hurting themselves if they sold all our T-bills. By the way, people are buying our T-bills at 3% interest rates. I don't think there's a shortage of people who want to buy them. By the way, we do borrow way too much money. But look, I think Trump understands we have the upper hand here. At some point, China is going to have to make concessions. I mean, look, it's very simple, Rick. We cannot have free trade deals with a country that steals $300 billion from us every year. I mean, it just doesn't work anymore.
However it works out, Liz, we hope
I
that
didn't
works
say
out.
we
We can't take many more days like today, though. I mean, it's like a.
Well, that's true,
It's
too.
like a roller coaster.
That's why we got to get this resolved.
My heart
I
can't
agree
take
with you.
it. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. We'll be right back.